Hello, and welcome to day 35 of Dungeon 23. Now, yesterday we made the room on the upper side of the dungeon, the one that has the ghost and the one that set up the blind hook horror as our wandering monster, and only today did I realize that we kind of went in the wrong order. We're supposed to be doing the one on the bottom side, and then finally doing the one with the canvas that's hiding it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the one on the bottom and then the one on the canvas, and then we're going to start again from the top one and then go to the left side and then the bottom, then the right side again. So hopefully it'll be back into proper order of things. But for today, I do have an idea for what we're gonna do on this bottom floor. So let's go ahead and actually sketch out the room. Now my idea is going to involve the use of cover, which is something that it doesn't actually show up too often in my games. I don't know if it's just because a lot of my combat happens in open areas, or if it's because my players just don't utilize it. But personally, it feels like a part of the game that's kind of underutilized, and this room is going to utilize it more, hopefully. So it's going to be a very basic room. And it's actually going to be, there's going to be a 2 wide doorway. Horror can come through this way because, as said earlier, it's a large creature. It's not going to be able to fit through the 5x5 or the 5-foot-by-5-foot cube doorway, but it's going to be able to reach through. This one is going to actually be able to walk through. So let's go ahead. Just got here. And as you could, oh, I did that wrong. As you could tell, symmetry is something I like. And let's go ahead and fill this in here too, because that's not going to get utilized. So what we have here is this basic spot here. So I'm actually going to draw out a few things. Let's go, this is a color brown. Make this, oh, excellent, click there. Let's do large, it's invisible, and then make this guy actually a line. And we're gonna have to change the color back again. I love Roll20 because it's the one I've been using ever since whenever, and I don't like how D&D Beyond is kind of owned by Hasbro. That kind of upsets me because I do not like giving money to D&D or to Wizards of the Coast or to Hasbro or anything like that. As you could probably tell, I don't pay for D&D stuff. Like, I'll buy third-party stuff and I'll give money to basically indie developers who write like homebrew modules and make homebrew stuff. But Hasbro as a company, I don't like, so I'm sticking with Roll20, even though it has a lot of features that annoy me. But also, I don't use any alternatives, so I don't know if that's just actually going to solve anything if I switch. But to get back on topic, we're just going to be drawing some things here. And then did I draw that right? I did not. So yeah, as you can tell, I really like my symmetry. And here we are. Now, what this basically is are tables that are flipped over. So let's just do people do not like flipping over tables as much as they should. Which is why we're having our tables pre-flipped over. And if you notice, they're kind of in opposition to each other. Because that's going to be our monsters in this room. So what are we going to put here? Well, we've only ever used like two primarily monsters in this dungeon, and that's like skeletons and goblins. So we're going to put down some skeletons. Because goblins are good if you want to have a character that feels alive and has personality, because they're like little wacky guys. But skeletons you could give a personality without them having to speak. Like a skeleton can just be an intelligent creature, or not an intelligent creature, but it could be a creature that is, you know, it has a personality as a character without it actually being alive, and you could go up and talk to it. And a lot of people like talking to monsters and NPCs, and I do like that too, you know. You can just let your players talk to monsters, but sometimes you don't want them to. Sometimes you just want to have a good wacky character that you don't have to give a name to. So let's put down a skeleton here, and a skeleton here. Now, these two skeletons, what they're gonna do is they both have crossbows, just basic light crossbows, and they will perpetually be shooting at each other. What that means is when you enter this room, you're gonna have to make dex saves to avoid getting shot in the crossfire. So let's go ahead and actually write that down. And it is gonna be a pretty low dex save for a low amount of damage. It's just something to be really fun. Green here. Let's put this on the map and background. GM info overlay. I could just change it right here, actually. It's much better. I haven't put it out for a while. So. Skeletons will shoot at each other with crossbows. Really all creatures. Creatures moving through the corridor. I spelled that right, I guess. Or must make DC. Well, skeletons is like what, +4 to hit, so 8, 9, 10. It's a DC 10. Make DC 10 dex save to avoid taking. It's gonna be 1d8, I believe, is the crossbow damage. Let me double check. Yeah, it is a d8, so d8 plus, let's just say 2 because it's a skeleton. Piercing, pierce damage. Now, for those who don't know how cover works, what it does is it gives you a bonus to AC, advantage on dexterity saving throws. So there's 3 different kinds of cover. The first form of cover is half cover, you know, it covers half of you, and that gives you a +2 to your AC. So if you're wearing like plate mail, or not plate mail, like full plate armor, yeah, plate mail, I'm not too concerned with the actual names of things, more so the ideas. Let's say you're fully armored and you're wearing armor that gives you 18 AC. That's already really good. But if you like just duck behind a wall and you have half cover, that bumps you up to a solid 20, and that's really good. Or you could do 3/4 cover, and what that does, it gives you a +5 to initiative, not initiative, your armor class, as well as the advantage on dexterity saving throws. Now that's really, really good, especially considering that you only have to really move in and out of cover as part of your movement, and you can move, attack, then move back. The third one is full cover, which is basically you cannot be targeted, you cannot affected by spells, you know. I think you do have advantage on dexterity saving throws again, if it is like an AoE spell. Fireball, I'm not entirely sure. We could check that out later, because right now it's not going to be really affecting here. But we're going to make a little note here, so we remember this for later. Text, it's lime green again. Let me just zoom in here. Tables, flip tables, give half cover or when you are prone or a small creature. So basically that means that these tables are big enough that you could kind of hide behind them and get the half cover, or you could like fully duck down and get, you know, 3/4 cover, which is really good. And that's mainly just to kind of like teach players about how to use cover. And also, it should be going without saying, but it's only from the direction you are getting it from. So if you're hiding right here, and there's like a wizard over here shooting like a firebolt at you, you're not going to get the bonus from the cover because it's on the same side. But also, we're not going to worry about too much for this because you're getting pelted by arrows on both sides. Or bolts, rather, because bolts are fired from crossbows, not arrows. Now, other than that, the only thing I could think of is, let's clarify when we actually have to make this save here. So on account 20, if you don't know how layer actions work, it's basically like the room's initiative. Certain NPCs or certain creatures that have like boss status, or they have a status of being like a creature that, you know, makes layers. Hags have them, beholders have them, dragons, depending on what kind they are, have them, liches have them, all kinds of different creatures have them. And it's not really just higher level things, any creature could have them, really, which you should probably do. Give your monsters layer actions, because it makes the fight more dynamic. Same thing goes with legendary actions. A lot of more monsters should have legendary actions, because it basically makes the fight more dynamic, and it gives them the ability to do more, because otherwise it's just going to be you fighting a monster, or rather your party fighting a monster, and it casts one spell or makes like 2 attacks on its turn and moves around, and then it just sits there while the party wails on it, and that's not fun. Not only not fun for you, but it's also not fun for the party, because there's no real risk of retaliation, with the exception of like a reaction. And even a lot of monsters don't have reactions. So we're probably going to give a creature, maybe not on this floor, but maybe the following floor, some legendary actions. Lower, basic, very simple things, like just like moving around maybe. But we'll get to that when we get to it. The point is, layer actions is basically the room's action, and they always go on initiative count 20, losing initiative ties, which is why I wrote initiative count 20. So when you enter this room, everyone just rolls initiative, and then every time initiative 20 comes up, everyone in the room has to make the dex save. And it should also go without saying that if one of the skeletons is killed, then it just stops, because they're no longer in a stalemate with each other. And of course they're not going to actually kill each other, it's just a little set piece that meta-wise we created, but in lore-wise, in-game-wise, in the story of the dungeon, the wizard probably made it because he thought it looked cool. Because wizards like making weird set pieces for no purposes other than to be entertaining. Another reason I did this is because I really like, for monsters that use range attacks, if you're having multiple monsters attack the party, First of all, I do like using like group initiative for monsters. It just makes it a lot easier. Either all the creatures of a type go, all the enemies go, or like groups of enemies go. It really depends. You just don't want to make it too unfair. But my point is, I don't like making a whole bunch of ranged attacks because it's annoying. And you have like, oh, how do we divide the attacks evenly if they're so close to each other? What I do is I instead make it an AoE deck save. So if there's 20 skeletons with bows and they're all firing arrows at the party, just have it be a deck save. And like the DC is probably like the average DC of like 8 plus proficiency plus dexterity. And the reason I say 8 and not like 10 is because the spellcasting save is 10, not 10, 8 plus proficiency plus appropriate attribute score modifier. So I think that's kind of how it all should go, because it kind of makes things a bit more balanced, even at low levels. It gives a challenge without being super, super difficult. And it's not something you just totally pull out of nowhere. Like, I feels like a lot of, like, saves for monsters are just, like, kind of arbitrarily determined instead of based on their actual attributes, which I get because you're trying to make, like, a thing that's, like, to be fought, but also it doesn't make sense. Like, why the save is a certain thing. Especially considering how CR and the actual difficulty of monsters is almost completely useless. But I don't want to go on a whole tangent about how bad CR is, because a lot more people who have a lot better skill at enunciating their points have gone in greater depth than I will about it. Just go watch those videos instead. Just you go on YouTube and look up D&D challenge rating and just watch tons of people complain about it, which is why I mainly make my own monsters for the most part. Like you saw the hook horror we made. It is based off of the hook horror from the Monster Manual, but it's modified to suit our needs. So yeah, that is our room for today. Again, very simple. Just two skeletons shooting at each other. Because why wouldn't they? So yeah, if you have any suggestions for future rooms, go ahead and comment them. Just comment in general. I guess it's algorithm crap. Again, I don't know if that actually works or not. But, you know, like, comment, subscribe, that crap. And I apologize for the poor quality. It is not going to get any better.